this is where the bull ends, man. Now, we got Max Kellerman back at it again. We got Jim Lampley back at it again. The only one that's missing now is Larry Merchant, man. For years, we have watched these guys dismantle the game of boxing, the fight game. Now, Jim Lampley doesn't have a problem with going on national TV and saying what he feels is wrong with the fight game due to PBC supposedly taking over. This is when you know that a network or a specific individual is doing something right. When you have another network going at them. So I know for sure that you guys that are avid fans of boxing enjoy watching these fights on basically public TV, national TV, if you will. You guys enjoy this stuff. Comes on Spike, comes on NBC, et cetera, et cetera. I know you guys love it because I do. I like seeing this stuff on national TV. I was fortunate enough to be born in an era where I was able to see these fights before the Mike Tyson era and the pay-per-view era came in with him. I was able to enjoy boxing on TV as a kid before this whole PBC thing. So for all of you guys out there that haven't done your research, that do not know much about boxing, it used to be on public TV a long time ago, man, back in the 80s. We were fortunate enough to be able to see that before the Mike Tyson era came in and they started charging, the fans to see this guy knock people out. That's what he was there to do. We all knew what he was going to do. And even if it was for a few seconds, when that guy got in the ring, we all knew what was going to happen. It was going to be a knockout. So I'm just, it's astounding to see the hate generating from the HBO network. Now they want to try to act like, they don't want Manny Pacquiao on the network, which we have all heard about this by now. But, now they want to try to act like they don't want him on, due to the fact that Manny Pacquiao has made up his mind that he wants to do his own thing, that he wants to call his own shots. HBO wants to be able to be in a position to where they dictate what the fighter is going to do, how much the fighter is going to get paid, who the fighter is going to fight in order to be on the network. Manny Pacquiao doesn't want to do it that way. He wants to come in and do things his way now, which, in my opinion, you should have left Bob Arum a long time ago and you would have been able to write your own ticket the way that you're trying to do now. You would have been able to do it with less opposition, and you would have been able to go to whatever network you wanted to go to and, try to produce big fights. You would have been able to do it under, your own banner, if you will. So Jim Lampley, man, I mean, this guy, he's been at it for a long time. Max Kellerman has been at it for a long time. And then it was Larry Merchant before them. These guys go on tantrums all the time, tearing down great fighters, and I'm just we're all sick of it. All of us boxing fans know the truth. We've seen this stuff for a long time. We saw it when Prince Nassim was dominating, the hate that generated when he came in being a showman, showing showmanship in the sport of boxing, coming in on flying carpets and all of those things, coming in with P. Diddy, dancing, flipping over the top rope, entertaining fans, having a good time. Same thing with Parnell Whitaker when he would get in the ring and outclass every opponent, ducking and dodging all the way down to the floor and in the squat position and coming back up. Guys still wasn't able to hit him. Roy Jones Jr., when he was in there beating the crap out of guys and showboating and guys couldn't hit him and guys couldn't hurt him, He's sticking his face all the way out there. Same way when Ray Leonard was doing it. Same thing when Ali was doing it. You know, it's been going on for a long time with the hate for top dominant athletes in the sport, whether they're black, or whether they're some other color, some other ethnicity. If the guy comes in and he's showboating, and he happens to be a non-white fighter, you have all of this opposition. Then when these guys get in and they happen to have a little swag, and these guys they're white and they have bravado, it's okay. It's trendy. Look at this guy. He's wonderful. Look at Conor McGregor. They didn't like when Floyd got out and started blabbering and blasting, but Conor McGregor doesn't, and it's swag. It's just, it's gotten beyond just the enjoyment of the fight game. It's gotten beyond just being critical. Now, we're just going into the prejudice of things, So Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman, and Larry Merchant have single-handedly torn down the sport of boxing for a long time. They'll get on the network and they'll tell you, this guy, he's there's nothing special about him. He's not a unique fighter. He basically runs off at the mouth. They'll tell you what these fighters are not, and they'll sell that stuff to the general public. And you'll have people that aren't avid boxing fans, as far as the casuals watching the fight. They'll have these guys thinking that this is what these fighters are all about, that this is what these matches are going to be all about. And they'll sell a certain type of persona to the public and mess up the way that you perceive what these guys bring to the sport of boxing, or what boxing really is. When these guys get in there and they start, they figure out that they can't go toe-to-toe or what have you, or they're smart enough to move around in the ring. They're smart enough to slip punches. They're smart enough to stay off, to move off the jab. They're smart enough to, to counter and things of that nature, and fight a smarter fight and not go in there and get knocked out. They'll start, selling to the public all of this fear. All these guys are scared. Nobody, wants to fight these tough guys, and it's overly ridiculous. It's overly ridiculous. Tired of hearing about the whole everybody's afraid to fight Triple G type of deal. That's another ploy that HBO has used to sell this guy, so that, he could, pack the stadiums out, so that he can get the networks, jumping behind him. And so these guys can, start advertising and generating money on the HBO network, to stand behind Triple G. I'm not hating on Triple G for trying to get his money. He wants to get his money. Let the guy get his money. All in the same breath, nobody is afraid of Triple G. Nobody's afraid of this guy. So I know there's going to be a lot of guys that's going to listen to this and say, where is he coming from? Why is he hating on Jim Lampley? Why is he hating on Max Kellerman? I love his opinion. Max Kellerman, and he's a smart guy. He's this, he's that. Max Kellerman gets paid to hate. That's what he does. He gets paid to hate. And he gets paid to come up with a biased opinion, to sway the casual fan from knowing what a true boxer really is. What is it that you're really watching when you watch these guys get in the ring? Like Rigondeaux. They don't like Rigondeaux. They don't like his style. Rigondeaux, can't really be beat given the way that he fights. He won't be beat in an easy manner. I'm not saying that he can't be. Somebody out there can do it. It's going to take a while. But, you got to be a really skilled guy to keep up with what Rigondeaux is in there doing. But they won't sell you somebody like Rigondeaux. They won't give give you the opportunity to be able to look at him and say, you know what, I really enjoy watching this guy's skill set. I really enjoy watching him move off the jab. I love his footwork. I love the way, he slips punches and counters. I love the way that this guy nullifies his opponent's his strengths and turns them into weaknesses against him. I love that about him. I love his work ethic in the ring. He's always in shape. He never comes in flabby. He never comes in looking sick. He's always in top shape. They never give you that stuff. They never give you the real 24/7 type images anymore. They never go into these hoods and to these gyms and find talent in these gyms. They never give you, the hard streets where these guys had to come up from. They give you a lame story, and they run with that. They sell you on a sad story with this guy, and then they sell you on this is where he came up from here, and they put it on a 24/7 and show that, instead of really showing you the skill set, instead of showing you the history behind the skill set. In this city, it used to be about the Philadelphia fighters. It used to be about the Michigan fighters. It used to be about the New York fighters. It used to be about, where you came from, which is what makes you who you are. It's not about the ability of the Cubans anymore and how prideful they are about their skill set. It's not about the grittiness and the griminess of the Mexicans that love to go toe-to-toe. It's not about this stuff anymore. Sometimes they give you a backstory, but it's all chopped up and screwed now. It makes no real logical sense. It has no bearing on the audience that's watching it, except for us avid fans that really love the sport and really like to follow these guys, and we know where they come from and what they're about. They won't sell you these things anymore. And so, they have you looking from a whole different perspective, sounding like ESPN analysts, giving you stats and giving you yardage and all of this stuff if you're watching football, instead of allowing the viewer to really watch the game and develop, his own sense of what happened out there on the field. They want to give you stats in basketball. Oh man, he had, he hit 223 3-pointers, this year, and he hit 300 and some 3-pointers, and now they have you watching the game from that perspective, instead of you being able to really see what one or two people or what a whole team is out there doing to have an effect on the game or have an effect on that season or what have you. It's this whole brainwashing mentality, because they don't ever want you to have in your mind what's considered great, in your eyes, whether it's a black fighter, whether it's a Cuban fighter, whether it's a guy from the Middle East, or whether it's a guy from London, Germany, somewhere, the Ukraine, Russia, wherever these guys come from. They don't ever want you to know for yourself, what greatness is in your eyes. They want to sell you, on them being the so-called all-knowing, if you will, all-knowing prophets of the game, all-knowing commentators. We know everything about these guys because we live, sleep, eat, and crap boxing. So listen to us. Anyway, guys, man, I love to do these videos at 8 minutes, and I've been saying that a lot on these videos, but I have had to go over so that I can try to validate a point, or so I can get a lot of stuff off my chest as a fan, as a guy who truly loves this stuff, who's been watching this stuff since I was a kid, man. And you guys that follow me, you guys have heard this before. I truly love boxing, man. I love boxing. It's up there, like I said before, it's up there with basketball. It's up there with football. It's up there with track and field. Basketball and track and field are my loves. I still can do both of them, at a high level. But it's just, I choose to do these things for fun, man. And now that I don't do it on a regular basis anymore, I've gotten older, gained weight, etc. Working jobs, trying to make all of it, trying to make money, trying to take bills and be responsible. I don't have time to do it like that anymore. And I don't. Obviously, I'm not pro. So I like to enjoy sitting down and analyzing the game for myself. When I was a kid, man, we used to go in and collect um, cards. We used to collect cards, man, in order to know what the stats were. Read the newspaper, get the Sunday newspaper, and read the sports section. We had to, before Sports Illustrated was a thing. That's what we used to do. You know, we used to, I forget, I forget the name of a lot of these magazines now. But we used to get these magazines, man, and we used to, sit and read these things, man, like they were the Bible or something, man, and find out about all of these guys' stats and find out what colleges they came from and things of that nature. We never needed ESPN or the news guys, casters or anchors, if you want to call them that, for the sports section, tell us what happened in the game tonight. We didn't need that. It wasn't really on TV like that, to be honest with you. ESPN was more like a news network, rather than like a sports outlet the way that it is now. They weren't trying to be cool and hip. They weren't trying to learn the lingo. They didn't have analysts. They had anchors basically, telling you sports news from like basically from like a news network perspective. Go back and look at some of this stuff, man, and you'll see for yourself. So it was different on TV back then. It was different on TV. ESPN, their network wasn't like something you can turn to, in the 80s like that. You had to, in the 80s and even in the early 90s, you had to be reading these magazines on your own time, Slam and all of that stuff didn't come out until later, man. So it's just, you guys have to be able to look at this stuff and decipher for yourself what's what. Listening to hundreds of guys on YouTube tell you this or that, listening to me, listening to anybody else out there is not going to give you all of your answers. It's not going to, feed you what you need all the time. You're going to have to decide that, hey, maybe it's not that serious for me, or maybe it is that serious for me. This is something that I need to know. This is something that I want to know, So you're going to have to decipher this stuff for yourself, man. And know that no BS when you hear it and no truth when you hear it as well. And come up with your own opinions. But look at this stuff for what it really is. And then comment, then hate, or, all of these things that you can do online to disrupt somebody else's opinion, or try to overshadow the way that they perceive things, or call them this name or that name, try to break these guys down, because a lot of these guys have the history on this stuff. Some of you guys are just barely tuning in since the Pacquiao era. You're just tuning in, But anyway, man, I'm out of here. Hit me up. Peace.